our test run.
Okay.
Now you're recording, so I'm going to leave and let you start, John, okay?
All righty, Bill. Thank
All right, good
you.
luck, everybody.
Thanks, Bill.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya. All right. Well, welcome everyone to the first annual Zoom candidates night, so to speak. And I'd like to thank you both for agreeing to participate in this little exercise that hopefully will give the voters some information about the both of you to make their decisions. And I guess first and foremost should thank you for your willingness to run for the Board of Selectmen and to serve our town. It's as I'm sure you appreciate, a very important role, a very important job for our town. So just for the viewing audience, I just would like to, and for your benefit, I guess I would indicate that we have Veronica Kell and Kevin Keefe, who are both candidates for the Board of Selectmen. And just to give a little overview of how we're going to run this candidates night or candidates afternoon, we've got some pre-prepared questions which both of you have seen. So I'm going to ask you both to give an opening statement similar to basically the first question is, what's your background? And that would be your opportunity to give an opening statement. I'm going to try to, I don't have a clock, but I would like to ask you to try to limit your opening statement to about 5 minutes, if that, and then a closing statement, probably formed by the last question on the list, which is, why do you want to be a selectman? Would be kind of like your closing wrap up, and again, 5 minutes. And other than that, I think the question and answers, the answers that you give would be, try to limit them to 2 to 3 minutes. Some might be a little bit more complicated than that. I'll try to make sure everybody gets an equal amount of time to respond. But I'm anticipating it shouldn't go too much more than an hour. It might be less, it might be a little bit more, but you guys have any questions at this point up to now?
I
Perfect.
think I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good, thank you.
All right, well, I think I had mentioned before that we were going to flip a coin to see who goes first. All right, so and I think the gentlemanly thing is, whoops, I didn't flip it yet. I guess if Kevin, you'll defer to Veronica, I'll let her call
I
it.
defer.
Okay, all right, Veronica, ready?
Tails.
What'd you say?
Tails.
Tails it is.
Does that mean I go first?
That means it's your choice.
Oh, no.
You can go first or you can
I'll go.
defer.
I'll go.
It's just like football. Kevin, you know, right?
That's right.
All right. Well, for this first one, I did write something here for my opening statement. So,
Okay.
I don't know if that was what you had in mind or not, but for the opening and closing, I did that. For the rest of them, not so much. So.
Yeah, and essentially that's the first question, I guess, and unless I think I want to amplify it, it would be like, what's your background? But you can expand upon that. I presume that you'd have that in your opening anyway, so it's kind of a redundant.
Okay, well, I'll start with thanks, John and Bill, who is in the background that nobody can see anymore, for taking your, I guess he really isn't here anymore, for getting us started, for taking your time to organize and support the Candidates Forum. I appreciate this opportunity. For people that don't know me, I am Veronica Kell, the woman on the signs around town, and I'm running for selectman. I've lived in Townsend for the majority of my adult life, and I've consistently volunteered during all those 35 years. I volunteered with the things that interested me and that I thought might improve the quality of life in the town in some small way, which I think all volunteers do. My first volunteer effort in town was as a member of the Affordable Housing Subcommittee for the master plan that was developed in the mid to late 1980s. Our first summer here, a town resident walked up our driveway and asked us to sign a petition, and we got talking. We had never lived anywhere where there was an open town meeting form of government. And we thought it was pretty cool to have a say in community decisions. So I signed up for that master plan subcommittee. That master plan experience led to the organization of the Townsend Conservation Land Trust, which is an organization that I am still part of today. I moved on to climbing into dumpsters with other town volunteers to stack papers and separate glass at the landfill when recycling first started in Townsend, and then to various positions on school boards when my children were young. From Townsend Cooperative Play School, which is now the Village Common Children's Center, to PTOs at the various schools, to school council at Squanicook Elementary School. I was a Girl Scout leader, starting with daisies, through brownies, juniors, and into cadets. And I served as a Girl Scout representative on the first Townsend Earth Day committee, which was mid-90s maybe. Around 2013, the Northeast Direct Pipeline threatened Townsend lands, including 2 land trust properties here in town. I was going through the town website trying to figure out who at town hall I should contact to find out what on earth was going on when I was getting letters and we were getting phone calls from Kinder Morgan. And I saw that the Conservation Commission was short 3 people. So I served on the Conservation Commission from 2014 to 2017. Currently, I'm a member of the Planning Board. I also serve as the Planning Board's representative to the Montechusett Joint Transportation Committee and the Capital Planning Committee. I'm on Townsend's core team for the grant-funded Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Plan, and I'm working on the MVP Action Grant application that's underway and due next week. This work has shown me how important it is to pay attention to where our tax dollars are going and also to the grant opportunities that could provide the town with support for much needed projects. On a professional level, I have an undergraduate degree in mathematics and a graduate degree in numerical science, which is a combination of applied math and computer science. I have been a teacher, a mathematician, a member of the technical staff, a software engineer, and again, a teacher. What I've learned about myself is that I have a logical mind, I like figuring things out, and I also like to work with people. This applies to government service in that I enjoy researching laws, bylaws, regulations, lands, and how these apply to our community. The good news is I'm retired from my professional career and I enjoy spending time advocating for Townsend. I hope you will vote for me. And that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. Kevin, would you like to make your opening statement with basically what's your background and tell us a little about yourself?
I would. Hello, I'm Kevin Keefe. Well, I've been a town resident my whole life. My childhood here was truly amazing. The community was filled with children and families who spent enormous amounts of time together. My father coached Pop Warner football. My mother was a cheerleading coach. They taught us about the community and the importance of giving back. I played Little League baseball, tap basketball, continued sports through high school. I always worked, starting at a young age of 9. I was a paper boy in Timberley Park. I had the largest newspaper route in the town, and I got to know most of the families that way. Many of my adult friends today are the kids that I grew up with. I remember countless community events. The community at that time really felt like family. Most of these families are still here today, and a lot of the kids have moved back to raise their families. I'm one of those that could not imagine living anywhere else or raising my children anywhere else. My high school jobs were also part of the community. I delivered pizza. I learned how to work on appliances at Forest Appliance, and I worked for CW Fuels. The second question, I'll get into my business experience. But as far as this goes, it's really about community. Currently, I coach many sporting activities for my children, and I try to get involved. I have 3 kids. One who I'm extremely proud of is going to, or all 3 I'm extremely proud of. One
Good
is going to
catch.
Merrimack College for engineering. The other one will be graduating Friday from North Middlesex, who I'm extremely proud of. And I have a 3rd grader who is at Spalding, who I'm also extremely proud of. And I've been here my whole life. I love this town. There's no place I'd rather be. And that's why I'm running for selectman, to give back. Thanks.
All right, Kevin, thank you. It seems, I'm not sure if we have a little bit of a time delay here with your audio versus your the visual, and I guess it's okay. Bill, I don't know if you have any suggestions on how that could be fixed. Might be a function of it looks like Kevin, you're on an iPad, so maybe that's why.
Okay.
I think we can still go ahead with it. I mean, it's just that it looks as though, to me at least, it looks as though what you're saying is not in sync with your features, your facial features.
Ooh.
But
Maybe that's a good thing.
But anyway, I guess without further ado, we could just go on. And so I guess what I had talked to you about before was alternating between the questions. So you both had the opening statement. Ronnie went first. So I guess I'd go to you, Kevin, to go next first on the question of, do you have any experience in business management? And let me just say that it wasn't a perfect process, but I tried to solicit questions from a number of different people in town, sort of condense some of them. Some, I thought were good and would be, educational for people. And so unfortunately, we might not have the most perfect number of questions or type of questions, but I hope these will be okay. So the next question is, do you have any experience in business management? That's for you,
Perfect.
Kevin.
Thank you. After graduating from North Middlesex, I went on to Mount Wachusett Community College to study business management. After I left college, I started my first job at Best Buy. And I started there in the appliance department, thanks to John Forrest and Forrest Appliance. I quickly got one promotion after another. I was eventually awarded the Achievers Award for all of Best Buy. This award was given to me for the leadership of creating the #1 Best Buy store in the country out of 500 stores for sales and customer loyalty. I actually was given a trip to Disney where I was recognized for that company. At that time, while still working at Best Buy, the owner of Airport Appliance in Leominster, Massachusetts, had approached me while I was working and offered me a job as a sales manager at Airport Appliance. I was there for approximately 7 years. Being a small company, I helped and assist in all aspects of operation. I hired personnel, ordered product, scheduled both staff and services. And then after that job, I decided that I really needed a change. And I went back to school to become a licensed HVAC technician. So I graduated from the Peterson School and I got my license. And I started my next chapter at Lorden Oil and Propane. Initially, I was a service technician. I worked my way up as a trainer for service technicians. And eventually I was performing estimates and other management duties. I helped grow the propane division at Lorden as they expanded down towards the Cape. Since that time, I've grown professionally, acquiring my commercial driver's license, hazmat certification, hoisting heavy equipment license. Many of you know me from a part-time job I took as a driver's ed instructor when my children were getting ready to get their license, I thought, what a great idea to teach my children how to drive. And seeing how I knew all their friends, I went back and I took it was basically an 80-hour course and a state exam to be able to teach driver's ed. So I taught my kids, and a lot of the kids in the community I taught to drive, which is kind of fun. Since that time, I took a job for the water department. I'm huge in my personal education and, teaching my children the value of to keep moving forward. Don't get too stagnant and try to, keep adding to your life. I have since I started at the water department, I have gained my treatment 1 license and both my distribution licenses. I would like to think I play an intricate part at the Townsend Water Department. I get involved in all the day-to-day operations, and I find that the commissioners, the part-time superintendent and office workers, I would think, rely on me for a lot of information and to get work done. That's where I'm at right now, and who knows where I'll go from here, but I am looking forward to serving as a member of the Town of Selectmen.
All right, thank you, Kevin. I might have to talk to you later about the driver's ed, because I was hoping to maybe do some driver's ed, teaching kids how to drive, and others how to drive a Model T Ford. So,
I might be able to help.
all right.
Volunteer.
Yeah, okay. All right, Ronnie, I guess you're next as far as that question of experience in business management.
I'm on the board of directors for the Townsend Conservation Land Trust. I've been on the board for a long time. I'm currently the president and have been for the past several years. That involves developing an annual budget, a work plan, making sure that that work plan gets completed, which has included for the past several years working with service learning at North Middlesex. And the students have helped us a lot there. Annual filings, I'm the one that sees to it that we file with the Secretary of State and with the Attorney General's office, as well as the IRS. We are an all-volunteer organization, so we all work together to make sure that we are in compliance. As far as during my professional life, certainly I had my share of interviewing other professionals, writing annual reviews for people that were on my teams at various places, scheduling of staff when that was necessary. That was more in my summer jobs during the times when I was teaching at various youth programs. Those are all things that I've done in my professional life. So that would be my experience with business management.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The next question is for you, Ronnie, going first. What have you done to prepare for the position of selectman?
All right, so certainly contributing on town committees and boards is preparation for that, for sure. And I wasn't thinking of it that way when I've been doing that. But before pulling papers, I got on the Mass Municipal Association website because I thought if I was going to be a selectman, I should at least educate you think you know what the Board of Selectmen does, but not really, because I've never been on it. So I went to the Mass Municipal Association website. That's the Municipal Association for select boards. Similar to the MACC, the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissioners, if you are a conservation commissioner. And there I found a handbook for Massachusetts selectmen. It had chapters on public decision-making, administrative responsibilities, regulatory responsibilities, human resources, financing, public safety, land use. Well, I read that handbook. And I thought that gave me a good idea of what the position was, and I feel that I am prepared for this position.
Okay,
That's it. Thank you.
okay, good, thank you. Kevin, could you respond to that question, which is what have you done to prepare for the position of selectman?
Yes, I can. So in preparation to be selectman and the opportunity to serve the community, I also read the Selectman Handbook for Massachusetts. I studied all the current charter and bylaws for the town, the Board of Selectmen policies, and open meeting laws. I reached out to the community and tried to find what was important to them, what people were looking for, transparency, and what the agendas really were for the town of Townsend. And that's what I've done.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so again, alternating, first question for number 4 will go to you, Kevin. What do you perceive as the most pressing issue within this town? And what would be your next 2 priorities? So it's kind of an expansive question. Like, what do you think is the most pressing issue, and what 2 other issues do you think are important that are out there?
Okay. I would like to see more involvement in town meetings. I recognize that people and families are busy. So I believe that as leaders, it's our duty to properly inform the citizens and find solutions to get our community involved. I also think an electronic billboard might be a great addition to the town, where we could post scheduled meetings, current events, community building opportunities. I, for one, have had many issues navigating our town website. Some ideas I have are maybe a volunteer program at the rec center during selectmen meetings. I personally know single parents who would take advantage of this. Also, busy families. It appears contracts have been entered into without thoughtful consideration to our financial interests. That needs to be more transparent than currently appears to be. Roads also seem to be an issue on people's minds. I look forward to looking at the budget and seeing how we can start a rotation of new roads that doesn't hurt the pockets of our residents. This community is filled with all classes of people, from wealthy to less fortunate, and I think balance would be good for everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Ronnie, what would you perceive as the most pressing issue in town, and what would be your next 2 priorities?
I think the most pressing issue is the use of tax dollars. Knowing that the monies are being used responsibly, ensuring that funds are where they should be. If we need an ambulance, we should have the monies available to purchase that ambulance. We should have a financial plan, and we should work the plan. That includes looking at the contracts that have been in place. I certainly agree with Kevin on that. There should be, though, no cross-pollination across the budget. In other words, money shouldn't be moved from one place to another because that's more pressing. We should be working a plan and having tax dollars used wisely. The second is transparency and communication. This is between the Board of Selectmen and other town boards, as well as between the Board of Selectmen and the community, other town residents. That would be the second priority for me. The third is community, making sure that the supports of the things we need to be a resilient community and a self-sustaining community are in place. Having assistance readily accessible, making sure there's food security and support local farms. Having someone at town hall available to talk to people who might be looking for those sorts of supports. They're having rental assistance programs available, especially like now with all the pandemic economic realities that have just come upon everybody. There are rental assistance programs that can be put in place through our housing trust that we just voted into place in January. So tax dollars, transparency and communication, and community. Those are the three things that I see as priorities.
Okay, thank you. I think this next question is maybe somewhat related to the last question because, and I think you both referenced the current problems we're having with the COVID-19 pandemic. But the next question is, how do you see the pandemic affecting our town government, and what do you think you can do about it? And that would first go to you, Ronnie.
Okay. First, loss of revenue. Meal taxes, excise tax, local taxes. I would anticipate a decrease in state funding. So first is loss of revenue and also an increased need for services. That's where I see things affecting the community. Last week, the MMA hosted, so I'm going to the next part. What do I think I could do as a selectman? And really this kind of goes to all the selectmen because it would not just be me or Kevin, but it would be the select board looking at this. Last week, the MMA hosted a webinar where state agencies explained state and federal programs to help communities mitigate COVID-19 impacts. There's a food security infrastructure grant and various other programs that are available. I am hopeful that this is currently a work in progress, that our selectmen are looking into this now because these things are being rolled out in real time as we speak. And what I would do is see where the current selectmen stand with the programs that are available, help to do any paperwork, collecting data, letters of support, whatever we need to apply and to get the assistance that we need as a community. That's
Okay.
what I would do.
All right, thank you, Veronica. Kevin, can you respond to that question about how do you see the pandemic affecting town government and what do you think you can do?
Well, I think that it's basically looking at the town programs and grants that are available right now during this pandemic is going to be a full-time job. And I think that the selectmen really need to pay attention to that moving forward because there is a shortage of funds. And I'm hearing that that's going to create an issue specifically at town level coming into next year's budget. Specifically Townsend, the pandemic has changed the way we interact as a community. As far as the town business goes, I think we need to start using technology to get things moving a little more safely. There are many outlets such as this meeting that can be done virtually. I think the town leaders can do better, and I hope to start the discussions. It's been brought to my attention that there is a problem with permitting.
I'm sorry, Kevin, I didn't hear you, that last word you said.
It's been brought to my attention that there has been an issue with permitting in Townsend.
Okay.
At the building department. And I believe maybe we need to find a way to start embracing Zoom, FaceTime. There's a good chance that that might be the new normal for a while. Seeing how this is the first ever Zoom candidate question and answer, you found a way to step up and create something so that the town would have an educated opportunity to make decisions for selectmen. So thank you for that. But I think we need to keep an open mind. We need to always move forward, even if it's baby steps. Thanks.
Okay. And I'd like to just state for the record, to clarify the record, it wasn't my idea, it was Bill Rideout's idea. He somewhat coerced me into doing this because I'm a Luddite and I would have been the last person to suggest doing this.
Well, thanks, Bill.
Considering a guy that drives around a Model T and a Model A, you know, this is pretty progressive to me.
Well, we appreciate it, John.
All right. So then some of you, oh, I'm sorry, Ronnie, you didn't, no,
Oh,
you
no,
did.
I went first on that one.
You went first on that one. I'm
Yep.
losing track here. Bad thing for a moderator. Number 6 is a question about how do you feel about the pavement improvement override? And what are your thoughts about transportation issues in town? And since Kevin, I do know you went last, you can go first this time.
Beautiful. Like I said earlier, I think we need to strike a balance between the all or nothing approach. Did I want new roads? Yes, I did. However, I can understand how some people may not be able to afford the price tag. Here are my thoughts. You got to have a rotation that works, that we can do every year. My thoughts on transportation. Personally, I'm fortunate enough to know some of the elderly, and they truly, truly depend on transportation. We owe, or I believe we owe, gratitude to that generation. I'm thankful to have 2 members of my family who have worked at McNabb Pharmacy for many years. They describe the transportation as a godsend. It gives our seniors their independence. I recognize that this pandemic has made transportation difficult for seniors. I would like to find a way to start a volunteer service to help with the shortage of rides. We need to not take our own personal transportation for granted, and to remember that the community members need them too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kevin, thank you. Veronica, again, the question was the pavement improvement override. What do you think about that? And what are your thoughts about transportation in the town generally?
Okay, so 2 kind of separate questions in this one. The first one is the pavement override. And I have a campaign Facebook page, and I did write about this a few weeks ago. The pavement improvement override failed at the ballot box last summer. But what we did do at the annual town meeting last spring was pass 2 warrant articles. One, to have a pavement management plan as a town bylaw that's to be funded annually as follows. All Chapter 90 funds, which are the funds towns receive from the state for pavement funding, $250,000 from free cash, $50,000 in FY20 from excise tax revenue, and increasing that every year going forward by $50,000 until there is $250K from excise tax revenue going into that pavement management plan account. The second bylaw, the second warrant article that passed last year, these were Articles 10 and Article 11, if you happen to have the annual spring warrant from a year ago. The second one funded that pavement plan for last year. And that money is how all the paving that got done last summer got done. So where a separate article was for I call it the kickstart of the paving, which was the capital pavement management plan that was intended to address the backlog of road repairs. The bylaw that I was just talking about was intended to provide funding for ongoing maintenance of the roads going forward. This is a town bylaw. It was passed. The finance committee was a little bit concerned about the fact that, well, maybe we don't have that $250K in free cash to put in there. So they put in a caveat saying if funds are available, but we also put in a step 8 to the bylaw that says that it has to come forward every year so that we as a town can see in the budget what was funded. So those monies, as long as they are put in the budget every year, and as a town, we will know that, those funds are available on an annual basis to do road repairs. And so you can do the rotation that Kevin was talking about. We do have a town bylaw to fund that. And I would hope that we're going to do that. So my position is the town must fund the pavement management plan annually to the fullest extent possible. The Chapter 90 funds and the excise tax funds, working up to that 250K, should always go in there. Free cash might be where we're a little bit short, but we should be able to do critical road repair and paving going forward. And I really think that in another few years, if we really are able as a town to fund that and fund it responsibly, then at that point, reassess, because we will have been paving roads all along, reassess where we are and whether or not the town might be able to fund capital improvements. But what I would want to avoid is in 20 years, you know, if we don't fund that pavement management plan, that annual thing, and if we went ahead and did an override to pave everything that needs done, what happens, and we're not funding for maintenance, in 20 years, the town winds up in the same place that it was in last year. And I don't see that as fiscally responsible. So that's where I stand on that. As far as transportation in general goes, I've spent a little over the past year as the planning board representative to the Montechusett Joint Transportation Committee. And that is a regional committee that does, you know, really, I didn't even know it existed until I was appointed. I said, sure, I'll go as the planning board rep. It looks at all the roads to be paved in the area. It looks at studies to be done. So Townsend has been approved as part of the Unified Planning Work program to have a bikeability and walkability study done next year at the harbor area and the center of town. We will also have an intersection study done at a traffic study at the intersection at Route 13 in the Common and in West Townsend at the Brick Store. So those were things that we put in. The planning board looked at it, went to the Board of Selectmen for approval, and requested this last fall, I guess it was. But you know, it takes about 6 months to see things propagate into the work plan and get approved. The next thing that I would like to see, and I find the MJTC as one of the places the town gets a planning board and a Board of Selectmen rep to that committee. I would like to see us exploring bus routes, perhaps a park and ride to train stations so that people can get back and forth to Leominster and Fitchburg without having to use a private vehicle. And also to allow people to use the transit that we do have access to, that you have to drive to get there. So that's that. I should also say I was contacted last week about the Safe Routes to School program, which is a federally funded program that's administered through the states. And through that, there are grant funds available, and especially with the rail trail coming into town, it might be nice to explore bike paths, being able to get people from Kimberly Park to be able to bike into the center of town safely along the roads that don't have bike lanes right now. So anyway, it's something to look at and another thing coming down the road. So that was a very long answer and I apologize, I'm sorry.
I was beginning to get sense that, and I was gonna supplement the question myself, just to clarify, and I'll give Kevin an opportunity to maybe respond in this way. But I think one of the questions, I'm not sure of, either of your answers, but to clarify it, Kevin, I think you spoke to it more particularly, was the override. And I think you both really kind of addressed it. I think I both heard you saying that rather than use the override to fund this road improvement, it's something the town should try to figure out ways of putting money out of its existing budget into this on a regular basis so that we have the funds there. So am I correct in that assumption that although there may be times when an override is necessary to kickstart, as I think Ronnie said, a desperate need, do you see a different method for funding this road improvement project? And I guess I'd ask you, Kevin, first, and if you have anything else to say about transportation.
I mean, from the feedback I've got from the town, they didn't want to come up with the all or nothing approach. They didn't want our taxes jumping up through the roof, and people could not afford that. You know, my wife and myself were not in that position, and we are not wealthy, but we would have liked to have seen the roads. I would like, you know, the alternative is to put some aside every year until, to start the rotation. Forget about the override. You know, I'd like to see maybe get 10 roads a year and you replace them, and the next year you do the next 10. And you try to get on some type of rotation where we're getting new roads every 10 years. And you keep that moving forward, and we don't have terrible roads anymore. I know Timberley Park, I know off of Emery Road. I know those neighborhoods have never seen new roads. So that would be the plan that I would like to see moving forward.
Okay, and Ronnie, do you want to comment about the override?
As far as the override goes, yeah, it didn't pass. So we aren't getting all the roads that need done at one time done. But as far as the annual funds go, we do have a town bylaw, which means it has to be in place to put those funds aside to do what road repair it will fund every year. So I guess I would defer to the highway department as far as exactly which roads those are. But we did last annual meeting, in addition to the override, we also had a bylaw where we put aside a good chunk of money, and we said that every year, it's a bylaw, so it has to be funded every year for road maintenance and repair.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think we can move on, and let's see.
Can I say one more thing to that?
Yeah, Kevin, sure.
Just one little thing.
Yeah.
Just because so I think it's important that at the selectmen level, they come up with the plan of roads, okay? Not just Wallace Hill Road that there's no real traffic on, not New Fitchburg Road, brand new, that there's no traffic on. Like, we need to start doing the roads that the majority of the residents live on. And I don't know right now who sets that up, that rotation. I don't know if it's highway department. I don't know who it is. But I want to know who it is. And I want to be involved in making sure that moving forward, it's the roads that need to be done. And that's, I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Okay, yep, thanks. Okay, moving on then, and I think this actually go to you, Ronnie, first. How do we strike the balance between economic development and conservation?
Yeah, good question. I think that economic development, a lot of people think of that as industry, and conservation, people think of that as tree huggers. So that aside, I think that the town, to strike that balance, we need to build on our strengths. And for Townsend, that's the outdoors. We have the easternmost cold water fishery here in town. We have 2 sportsman clubs, the Townsend Rod and Gun Club. We have the South Fitchburg Hunting and Fishing Club. We have a state park that has camping, a river that's stocked for fishing. I've seen fly fishermen down at the point by the bridge, by the old library there. We have trails for hiking. We have a great historical area that we should take advantage of the things that we have here in town and build on that. Bring in small businesses that, things like restaurants, craft co-ops, maker spaces, encourage B&Bs. So those people who come to town and don't want to camp, don't have to drive 30 minutes to get to a hotel. Determine the areas of town that can safely encourage housing development without destroying our water. And uphold the conservation restrictions in other areas that are more environmentally sensitive. But build on our strengths. Tell people to come and stay overnight and see what it's like to enjoy life in a quiet rural town, where all the people are friendly and all the kids are above average or whatever. But build on what we have here. We have a great town here, and I really think we have a lot of opportunity here for both economic growth and conservation, and for them to live side by side.
All right, Kevin.
Do I want to see Townsend overbuilt? No, I don't. However, I believe that we cannot make up our own agendas on this topic. The town bylaws and state regulations are there as a guide to follow. I do support legal development. I'm aware of at least one business that wanted to stay in Townsend and was unable to several years ago. They took their business elsewhere. I think that we need to be smart about the revenue that can be acquired by business, such as excise tax, property tax, and employees spending their money here. We need to be careful not to push the good ones out. It was nice to see some new businesses pop up in our strip malls. I hope we can support them and promote small business.
Okay. All right. The next one, I guess, starts with you, Kev. And it is, please provide your thoughts on government transparency. How do you feel the town, this is a long one, so I'll repeat it if you want, but
No.
how do you feel the town has done educating the taxpayers and citizens on the work being done at the town level? And what do you propose to do in the next 6 months to improve communications and transparency, especially for citizens who can't attend selectmen's meetings? So I think both of you touched on some of these issues a little bit already, but that was a pointed question, which I did modify a little bit. There was a scale of ranking how you think the town has done, but I think if you can just answer that question, we don't need to worry about the scale. So.
Okay. So as far as that question goes, I intend to be extremely involved as selectman. I've heard over and over the selectmen are or were unaware of many situations involving the town and our community. By being more involved and asking more questions, I hope to know what's happening in my town. I will be available. I describe myself as a why person. Let me explain. I can't vote or feel good about something unless I know why things are being done. As a voter, I need all the facts to make educated decisions. Also, I like to see the thought process that goes into my town leaders as they make decisions for the town. This is something I will work very hard at accomplishing. I understand that not everyone will always agree, But if they know that you're passionate and they know you're thoughtful, then I believe people can respect that. If we know that there are important issues at town meeting and people are showing up for a specific vote, then why are we making it the last question? I've seen this over and over. I truly believe we can do better than that. Respect families, respect their time and what matters to them. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Ronnie?
So, John, can I just ask you to repeat the question?
Sure. Please provide your thoughts on government transparency. How do you feel the town has done on educating taxpayers and citizens on the work being done at the town level? What do you propose to do in the next 6 months to improve communication and transparency, especially for citizens who can't attend the selectmen's meeting? I know it's a really kind of long question, so and I'll
Okay.
give you a chance for a rebuttal, Kevin, but
Okay.
Ronnie, if you could,
Try to keep it sweet and simple.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a long question. So I guess I would give the town a D, even though I taught in an ungraded school for the first
Is
5
that a
years.
C, like Cook?
A D. I'm giving a D. On
Oh, a
educated
D, a
taxpayers
dog, okay.
citizen, isn't that bad? On work being done at town hall. Meetings aren't predictable as far as time and place goes anymore. Getting minutes for meetings can require a public records request. Kevin said this before, but the website is not up to date. And so as a citizen, it's really, really hard to know even when a Board of Selectmen meeting is, or what is being looked at in conservation, or when does the master plan committee meet? These are all things that are really hard to figure out. I think we're really missing a local newspaper. That used to be, way back when, that used to be the way to find things out. And we don't have that. I know the meetings that I'm in, I haven't seen a reporter in town hall in a long time. So what I propose doing in the next 6 months, I think I would hold regular listening sessions outside of Board of Selectmen meetings to provide a forum for citizens to share concerns, ideas, and thoughts. Right now, the Board of Selectmen, it's true that by Mass General Law, they don't have to allow citizens to speak at Board of Selectmen meetings. And in the past few years, this has improved. Citizens, as long as they're recognized, can talk at the beginning of the meeting. But if you go through the agenda and there's something there that you'd like to comment on, you can't always comment. And by the next time the meeting, the next Board of Selectmen meeting, it could be too late. So I think holding a regular listening session, whether that's monthly, whatever the need is, it would help me to represent citizens' perspectives during Board of Selectmen meetings. And it will help the citizens to know what is being done, because it would be a back and forth. You have to be careful. The whole selectman can't, it's the quorum issue. You have to be cognizant of that. So that's one thing I would do. I would like to see the website kept up to date. Right now, it isn't the exclusive job of any one person that I know of to do that. And Kevin made some suggestions earlier that were good suggestions for that, but I think that's an important thing. That said, there are people that don't have internet access, really aren't going to use the internet at all. They're Luddites like you, John. They are, they would like that town newspaper. So just like the senior center and the libraries, they have a newsletter. Why can't there be a monthly town hall newsletter similar to what comes out from the senior center or the library or the churches in town, that's in a print version as well as online? I realize that you don't know, you plan to meet at certain times, and sometimes something comes up that needs to be looked at immediately. And yeah, you have to give the 2-day notice, but But you should be able to predict at the beginning of the month, this is when we plan to meet. These are the issues that we're looking at. And I think each department could contribute to a newsletter. And yes, somebody would need to do that. And, you know, I could work on that. I could see how it's done at the library or the senior center and populate them. So those are the things that I think I could do within the next 6 months.
Okay, thank you. And Kevin, just want to give you the opportunity, since that was kind of a convoluted question, if you want to have any further comments on that, on the essentially the transparency question.
It's just pretty much what I said. I was in a meeting the other night, and there's a lack of communication right now between the selectmen and some of the town offices or town departments. They just don't, there's a lack of communication, and I'm gonna make sure that that doesn't happen on my watch. I actually have a very good relationship, I would like to think, with all the departments, and I like hearing what they have to say. I like being involved, and maybe I'm getting on a tangent, but I would like to make sure I know what's going on. Thanks.
Okay, all right, thanks, Kevin. Okay, so I guess, Ronnie, this one again goes back to you for the first reply. Question number 9, do you think you can successfully stand against or stand on issues that are contrary to other select members' position?
I would answer that as yes. That said, no one on the Board of Selectmen acts alone. It's a team. I would expect that each selectman listens to the others and that each presents facts supporting whatever their position is. Certainly, I am willing to stand up and speak and state my opinion. Once a vote is taken, you move on. So I guess my answer to the question of can I successfully stand on issues that are contrary to the other select board's positions, my answer to that is yes.
Thank you. Kevin, do you, can you respond to that question? Can you?
I can stand on positions. I can certainly work well with others. I really try to deeply. However, if I feel strongly enough about something, I absolutely believe that I can successfully stand on issues, because I always have reasons to support my views. I'm a big believer in don't fix it if it ain't broke. But if it's not working and there is data to back it up, then I believe it's time for change. To add a little more to the answer, I like to know my business. So if elected, I will ask the questions everyone is thinking, and hopefully some that you didn't think of. My goal is to truly be the best representative for Townsend that I can be.
All right, thank you. Thank you both. This is the next question goes to you, Kevin, first. What can you do as a selectman to make life better for all citizens of Townsend?
All I can promise is that I will do my best to be your voice. I had a friend tell me the other day that the people she voted for had changed, and she wishes there was a reset button on the bottom of their chairs. I hope to always stay grounded as I take on the responsibility to this community. I have the best intentions at heart. I've recently reached out to Emmy Hoff, who heads up the recreation department. This is a self-funded department who is looking to make her recreation better for the children of Townsend. She has recently been approved for grants from the state to open up parks for our children with very little cost to the town. I was told the initial estimates for like the operation of that property was $1,000 a year. I think it's a no-brainer to provide small funding for a department that's sole purpose is to development for the children. I look forward to working with this community. Another idea that I've had is to create an outreach program between town government and some of our high schoolers. I believe that if they are involved now, it could open the door for community involvement as these young adults grow up and live in our areas.
Okay, Ronnie, what do you think you could do as selectman to make life better for all citizens of Townsend?
I think that the most important thing as a selectman is to make sure that our tax dollars are spent wisely. I think we should find grants to support services for the community. I think we should work closely with our state legislators, with regional and local committees and coalitions and nonprofit organizations. So I think it's just, as a selectman, one of the most important things is the fiscal responsibility and to make sure you get the services that you need without making it too expensive to live in the community. So that's where I would concentrate time. Wouldn't quite be, it's kind of the, kind of a way to give everybody $1,000 a month, but it wouldn't be exactly that. You just not be increasing the taxes, but finding the supports that the community needs in other ways through grant funds.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, next one is, I guess start with you, Ronnie. Due to controversies in the past few years and some vitriolic exchanges in social media, there appears to be a negative perception about Townsend. What would you do to improve Townsend's image?
Okay, I want to first start by saying I do not have a negative perception of Townsend. I will say that when we moved here 35 years ago, we were told that we had bought a house out with the cows and the pigs. We weren't from this area at all, but we were told that by people at work. We were also told that Townsend was the Wild West, but we're still here. Our kids are grown and they've started their own lives and we are still here. So I think that to improve the negative perception that people seem to think is there, I would keep town government open and honest. I think that do all the things that we've talked about during this questioning process. Have no secrets. Lift any veil of secrecy. Do the work. I think that honesty and integrity can take you a long way. What others put on Facebook can't be controlled, or any other social media. If someone's upset because they got stopped for speeding down the road and they're gonna post something about that on social media, a selectman really can't do anything about that. And that you know, things like that lead to a negative perception, all the back and forth and all that. There's now a town hall social media policy, which there wasn't in the past. I would expect myself and all town employees to adhere to that policy, because if the negative perception is that there's something at town hall, that is perhaps something that the Board of Selectmen can do something about. But just a general negative, or people being, you know, what was your word, vitriolic?
Vitriolic.
There's not a lot the selectmen can do to stop that in their position as a selectman.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Ronnie. Kevin, you want me to repeat that question?
No, I wrote them all down when I got them. I have. Well, I guess first things first is I'd like to, you know, have some excitement and positivity in town leadership. You know, to at least try. You know, I imagine when I picture the way things have been, I try to imagine a meeting where rather than people come because there's lawsuits or negativity or policies getting in that the town doesn't want, that people actually show up because there's good things happening, because they want to get excited about pushing wonderful programs forward. And that's the reason they get involved. I think it's extremely important. I personally, I will not make promises that I cannot keep. I recognize as soon as people do that, in town office, they lose their integrity and the ability to gain support from the town. But they also create a negative environment where it's unhealthy for everybody. I'm truly, truly running for selectman to give back to this community. I have zero agenda other than to give back to the town, to be honest, fair, and to hopefully start some really good things. That's my answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. All right, the next question starts with you, Kevin. The Charter Review Committee has been working on revising the town charter. Do you feel the town needs to revise the charter to have a town manager? What about representative town meeting?
I am not in favor of a town manager. I will always be in favor of elected officials overseeing town business. It gives the town a voice and an opportunity for change if need be. If this were a private business where money was the only issue, then who knows? But it's not the only issue. It's not just about dollars and cents. It's about community, education, inclusiveness. Being evaluated every 3 years by a vote is a beautiful thing. As it stands now, we have a town administrator that administers direction from a board of 3. Having one person making decisions in a setting like Townsend does not work for me. So no, I would not be in favor of that.
Okay, any comments about representative town meeting? As opposed to
Representatives,
open town meeting that we have now?
I like the open town meetings.
Okay,
I like hearing what the people have to say.
okay. All right, thank you, Kevin. Veronica,
Um,
want me to repeat that one?
Sure.
The Charter Review Committee has been working on revising the town charter. And not to say that the following are things that they've been proposing, but in the context of looking at the town charter, do you feel the town needs to revise the charter to have a town manager? What about having representative town meeting?
Okay, so I'm gonna let the teacher in me come out first and say, for people, since this is recorded, if people don't know what a town charter is, it's Mass General Law says that a charter works as the municipal constitution. It's the authority on how town government is structured and run. So Townsend's can be found on the town website. So if you're not familiar with that, you might want to take a look under reports and bylaws and going to the Townsend General Code. It's part 1. That's our charter. So to answer the town manager and the representative town government, I am a no to a town manager as well. I think that we should keep it with a board of selectmen and a town administrator as opposed to manager. I do think, and this wasn't part of the question exactly, but I do think we might want to consider as a town going to a 5-person board of selectmen with 5-year terms as opposed to 3-year terms. That's more a quorum issue than anything else, making sure there are times where it's very difficult to get 2 out of 3. It can also be difficult to get 3 out of 5, but it's certainly easier than getting 2 out of 3 people to a meeting. So that's something I would add to that, but definitely no to a town manager. As far as representative town government goes, I'm one of those people that loves going to town meeting, and anybody that's been at town meeting knows that. I think it's important, but I recognize that in this day and age, oftentimes families have two people working. They have kids. Who stays home with the kids, especially when you have town meetings that are going until 1 a.m.? A long time ago, I know my Girl Scout troop babysat for town meeting, people that were attending town meetings for the parents. And the meetings were basically over, 2 nights, sometimes 3 nights, and they would be reasonable, 6 to 9. You can't even set up babysitting with a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout troop or any other organization in town the way meetings are now. So I would say yes to a representative town meeting. Because I think people like me or Kevin who like to go to town meeting could run to be the representatives. I would want more details on how many people in each precinct, how many representatives are there for each precinct? Is it a neighborhood representative? It might allow for more people to be involved without them having to take the time that it really does require to be involved in town government. So in this day and age, which is a different time from 35 years ago. So I am a no to town manager and a yes to representative town government, with a little bit else tossed in there.
Okay. Thank you. And I guess that brings us to our ultimate question. I think we can close out the discussion. I think we're pretty much on time. I think I didn't want this to go much beyond an hour. I think we're a little past an hour now, maybe an hour, 10 minutes or so. But I think we can wrap this up with that last question, which is why do you want to be a selectman? And it basically gives you your chance for your closing statement. So, and the way it works out, Ronnie, you get to go first, and Kevin will get to go last. So,
John, do you think that's fair? Because I went first on the opening statement.
well,
I'm okay. I'm okay either way, but
no, that's the whole idea behind it. I think it's very equally split between you, because the whole thing with in the court of law, there's the issue that the first person that goes first is the prosecutor, and the last person to go is the prosecutor. So
okay.
I think it's fairer to have one of you get primacy, which you had the chance to go first, the other gets to go last. So that's the fall of the dice, or the drop of the coin, I guess. So
Okay, so I'm going first.
you're going first.
All right. So 35 years ago, or even 1 year ago, I wasn't thinking, when I get the chance, I'm going to run to be on the Board of Selectmen. But on January 30th, I pulled papers for selectmen. It was as much a surprise to me as it was to anyone else. After the special town meeting in late January, I thought instead of standing up and asking questions and writing amendments to warrant articles, I thought I could contribute more effectively over the next 3 years as a member of the Board of the Selectmen. I realized everything that I've done during my time in Townsend, and especially the last 2 years as a planning board member, that's prepared me to be a successful selectman. I believe I'm the best candidate for the open Board of Selectmen position, and I'm asking for your vote on June 29th. I had planned to walk neighborhoods in April and talk to as many people as I could, but COVID-19 put an end to those plans. So if you're new to Townsend, or even if you've lived here for a while, I hope this forum is your walking up the driveway moment, and that you're inspired to find the places where you can make Townsend just a little bit better. You can follow me on Facebook at Townsend BOS Candidate VCAL. I've posted some positions there. Or you can email me at vcal@gmail.com. Again, I hope everybody votes on June 29th, either by mail or either by person or by mail. You can do that by writing to the town clerk's office for a vote by mail ballot, and just make sure your signature is on your request. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right, Ronnie, thank you.
You're welcome.
Kevin?
It's no surprise to me. I have wanted to run for selectman for several years. It's been on my radar. I was waiting for the opportunity to have my two oldest kids kind of move on and do that thing that would open up some freedom for me to dive into this. I really, truly want to serve my community. I've been given a gift of being raised here in the town of Townsend. And I've been interested in this position specifically for a long time. My reason for running is very, very clear. I love the town, I love the people, and I want the next generation to grow up and have the same experiences I have been fortunate enough to have. I've noticed the divide in the unity the town shares over the past several years, whether it be because of political positions, agendas, or egos. I intend and hope to bring people together. I remember a time when people had differences and the results were still accomplished with compromise. I hope to put common sense first. With voting for me, you'll get a selectman that truly cares about all aspects of this community. I am not running to feel important. I'm doing this to hopefully give back to the town that has given me so much. And I would like to just take 1 second to thank my family who's standing behind this monitor, holding up the answers that I spent days trying to prepare for
You
this.
used a teleprompter?
Yeah, I've got
Sort of.
family members, and that's the beauty of Townsend. It takes a village sometimes, and I'm very lucky to have strong roots here, and if it wasn't for my family and my friends, none of this would be possible. I wouldn't have had the experiences that I had in Townsend, and I probably wouldn't be running without those experiences. So please vote for me. Thank you very much. I appreciate your hard work, John, really. It was the best alternative under the circumstances to have people educated, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Again, I'd like to thank you both for participating in this. It seems to me that you're both very passionate about Townsend. I think hopefully we can all join in that love of our town to get out and vote. And I think the exercise today has made it perhaps only more difficult for people to choose, because I think if we could have both of you on the board, I would love to see that. But anyway, maybe we could do a 5-person board of selectmen someday. All right. Well, again, thank you all for participating. And I've just announced the fact that we are hoping or expecting with the recording of this can be put on Facebook and YouTube, hopefully through the town's website. It can be accessed. And I hope that we can get some information out on the town website as to how people can find this video of this candidates night and learn more about both of you. So with that, I guess we're good. And again, thank you for your participation.
See you on the 29th.
Oh yeah, on the 29th. Everybody remember to vote.
That's it.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess
Bye-bye.
I'll stop the recording. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye.